Artie. Well, let's get the latest now from Artie's Gianni Chichikian in the States on this blast at the fertilizer plant in the town of West, just north of Waco. What do we know about the numbers at the moment, Gianni? What can you tell us?
Well, Andrew, we have 2 people confirmed dead in this explosion and dozens more injured. We are getting reports that over 170 people are injured at the moment, dozens of people at the hospital right now. Of course, officials are being very cautious, confirming fatalities there, as is always the case after explosions like this, after tragedies like this. We have been getting conflicting reports. Initially, local media reported at least 70 people dead in this explosion. Judging by the impact that the explosion had, the number, two people confirmed dead, is likely going to go up, but it is going to be higher. But again, that is the number that we have confirmed at the moment by the officials. As you can imagine, this is a huge challenge for rescue teams to go there, and not just because of the toxic fumes rising, but also because of the possibility of another explosion, because another fertilizer tank is still intact there. As far as firefighters, as far as the first team that responded to the explosion, we have at least 4 firefighters missing. They're unaccounted for, possibly dead. And what happened at the beginning was at around 7 p.m. local time, a smaller fire broke out. And of course, firefighters rushed into the area. And what happened 15 minutes later was a massive explosion that was registered as a 2.1 magnitude earthquake. So what happened, it ripped through a residential area next to the plant with lots of buildings there. There was a big apartment building with over 100 people living there. There was a nursing home. So officials started evacuating people from the area, fearing this another possible explosion of this other fertilizer tank that is at the plant. We don't know as far as the cause of what happened, of the explosion. We have nothing confirmed at the moment.
OK, and there is concern, isn't there, Gianni, about a toxic cloud, toxins that have been released from this fertilizer plant after the explosion. What more can you tell us about the fears and what's being done?
Well, of course, there is a concern. We know that people are being evacuated, and this is one of the things that people are being taken to the hospital with. It is not just severe burns, but also chemical inhalation. So it is extremely dangerous. Of course, people are being evacuated from the areas where the wind is blowing, carrying this toxic cloud.
All right, Gianni, we'll leave it there for the moment. We'll come back to you shortly, I'm sure. That's Artie's Gianni Chichikian with an update for us in the States. We can also go now to Artie's Ramon Galindo, who is in Texas for us. So are you able to hear me, Mr. Galindo, firstly?
Yes, I can hear you. I am here in West Texas at the scene of the fertilizer plant explosion.
You're on the ground there. What more can you tell us? What's the latest in terms of casualties and what the rescue effort is doing now?
That's right. As Gayan mentioned earlier, there are at least 2 confirmed fatalities, but many more are expected, as many homes in the area of this fertilizer plant are now just rubble, yet it is too dangerous for first responders to approach the rubble because there are still these toxic fumes in the air. I just talked to a state trooper a few minutes ago who told me that there is still 1 tank of chemicals which is still at risk of burning, so they are still being cautious. Part of the town has been evacuated because of fears of this toxicity, and here authorities are keeping an eye on the winds. I'm not sure if you can hear them over the phone, but very high winds tonight, expected to possibly shift and may affect other areas of the town as well.
And in terms of the number of people that are trapped, you mentioned there many buildings were literally flattened by this blast, so presumably it's thought that many people are still trapped, are they?
Exactly. We heard from a firefighter before we got here who was talking about evacuating the areas near the fire before the explosion actually happened. Then after the explosion happened, several buildings came down. Some people were able to be rescued and pulled out of there, but firefighters who have been talking to the media have said that they're almost certain that there are more people trapped in the rubble, yet it's still too dangerous to go back in there because of the toxic air still flowing through the town.
And do we know how many people were actually in the fertilizer plant when it exploded?
We do not have a count of how many people were in there. This happened around 7 p.m. local time here in Texas. So not exactly sure how many people were inside of the plant. What we do know is that there was a nursing home very nearby. Many people were able to evacuate from the nursing home, but another apartment building also reported to be leveled. So it is presumed many people were there inside of the time in the neighborhood neighboring this fertilizer plant.
And in relation to this fertilizer plant, do we know anything about the company at this stage, its safety record, or that sort of thing?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. From what we have heard here in the fertilizer plant, still no cause for what caused the initial boom. What we have heard from firefighters is that there was initially a fire. Firefighters started to rush to the scene, and a few minutes later is when the explosion happened. But just to give you a little perspective about how big an explosion it was, this is a town of only 2,600 people, only 3 ambulances before this emergency. So unfortunately, it appears many of the first responders who were responding to the initial fire may have perished or been critically injured during their initial response to the first fire, and then the explosion happened.
And do we know how long it took for other emergency services to respond from other areas? Were they able to come and help quickly?
Absolutely. We just spoke to a crew that traveled more than 80 miles here to West Texas in order to help. There was a variety of agencies here to help. They created a triage just a few feet from where I am standing. I'm at the community center. There was a triage set up at the baseball park right behind it. Now, they haven't been able to give you an accurate count of how many people were treated, mostly because they just seemed overwhelmed, but dozens, we can definitely confirm, have been transported to hospitals all over the region. And like I said, this is a very small town, which is not equipped to support such a mass casualty situation as what happened today.
And is the understanding that these hospitals are now able to cope with what they're being confronted with?
Sure. Well, as of right now, they are definitely overwhelmed. They have not said that they're overwhelmed yet. However, they are asking for people living in the area to slowly be donating blood in the coming days, because they do know that many people are critically wounded and will definitely be needing a lot of blood donation in the coming days.
And in terms of the evacuation that's taken place, how many people are still left in the town? Do police believe that everyone should leave, or are they still saying only sections should leave? Can you give us numbers?
Sure. Well, this is a town of about 2,600 people. From the state trooper who I spoke to today, they said that their main focus was the north side of the town, which is closest to the fertilizer plant. But as I mentioned earlier, quite a windy day, and a possibility that the winds may start blowing south, and they may have to end up evacuating the southern part of this town. As of right now, still keeping an eye on the weather patterns and still keeping an eye on the fire, which is still emitting toxic fumes.
And their message at the moment to locals, we understand that the initial, shortly after the explosion, many people were trying to help, but now the message is actually, please, despite your goodwill, it is easier for emergency services to operate without their help, without people trying to offer assistance. Is that correct?
Right. Well, the town the main exit to the town has been closed off. I am here at the community center at the local church, where there are tons of food, supplies, water, things of that sort. And some people who have evacuated here, we saw some people going to hotels. But yes, authorities are telling people to donate blood over the next week or so, but to not at the same time. We saw a massive response here from first responders from all over the Texas area, but obviously still a fluid situation as first responders work on the fire and as medical officials try to save some of the critically wounded.
And one other question we'd like to ask you, Mr. Galindo. We have had people speculating on RT. I know it's too early to say exactly what caused this blast, but some people have feared it's been to perhaps safety lapses that have occurred here or breaches of security. We cannot say what has happened at the moment, but is that sort of thing being discussed on the ground at the moment where you are?
Okay.
I believe we've just lost Mr. Galindo, have we? OK, that was RT's Ramon Galindo, who is in Texas reporting from West, the town where this explosion took place. This video footage shows the initial fire that took place at the plant, and it is followed in a few seconds by a massive explosion that measured 2.1 on the Richter scale, according to geologists. It's an explosion that ripped through many buildings that were nearby. 70 homes, one firefighter said, had been affected. Also, an old person's home was affected. 133 people lived in that. Many people are still trapped at the scene, and firefighters and police and emergency services are trying to get to them at the moment, but they are being hampered by fears of a third explosion which might occur in the fertilizer plant. Firefighters are at the plant as we speak. 4 to 5 firefighters, we are told, are unaccounted for. We're unclear. It's unclear what has happened to them, but they are unaccounted for. But these pictures you can see do give you an indication of the scale of this disaster. And even though officials are only saying 2 people have died, that's the official confirmation. And as we have been hearing from Gianni Chichian, our correspondent, RT correspondent in the States, that is normal procedure. They wait until they can identify victims before they actually give a classified number. So we can expect and do expect the death toll to be much, much higher. This is a small area, around about 2,500 people live in this town. People have been taken to hospitals in Waco, which is nearby, but also in Houston, and there has been a comprehensive effort from all emergency services from surrounding areas to help this town deal with the devastation and this obvious tragedy. So as we get more updates, we will bring them to you, of course. We have got, I understand, a first-hand account from a fireman who was at the scene shortly after the fire broke out. I think we can hear from him now.
I can tell you I was there. I walked through the blast area. I searched some houses earlier tonight. Massive, just like Iraq, just like the Murray building in Oklahoma City. Same kind of anhydrous exploded, so you can imagine what kind of damage we're looking at there. I know there was at least 75 to 50 to 75 houses damaged. There's an apartment complex that has about 50 units in it that was completely just skeleton standing up. There's a nursing home in the area that 133 people in the nursing home. We've got them evacuated. I don't know what their injuries are there right now, but all injuries have been removed from the scene and taken to local hospitals in the Waco area. We had numerous agencies helping us all the way from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, McLennan County, Limestone, Hill, Bosque, and all the surrounding areas. So we've had a great turnout to come out to help us to get through this tragedy that we've had in this small community.
So that was a spokesperson for the safety teams who are tackling the blaze at the moment at the fertilizer plant in West.